Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Today is Sri Nityananda Trayodashi, the anniversary of the appearance in this world of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So in the beginning of this talk, we'll do two things. One is to turn off our cell phone, if we have one and if it's on. And the second thing is to pray for the special mercy of Lord Nityananda so that we can stay awake. You can see that everyone looks very tired, probably due to getting a lot of the mercy of Lord Nityananda late at night, last night. Yesterday I was mentioning how Varahadev is maybe the most, from the conditioned soul's perspective, is maybe the most unusual form of the Lord. Naravapu Tahara Sharup, the original form of the Lord, is human. We may say, well, how is that? How can you say that he's human? We are human. But actually he is human and we are just perverted reflections of humans. When we say the word Nara, that's the Sanskrit term for man or human. Is that in Tamil also? Yeah. He says yes, because he speaks Brahmin Tamil.
They understand.
Yeah, it's not Tamil. Well, theoretically, all Sanskrit words are part of Indian languages. So in every other Indian language apart from Tamil, Nara is understood to mean a man or a human being. Or maybe not Manipuri, but all the languages derive directly from Sanskrit. All the main languages, means not the tribal languages probably. So when we say Nara or Purush, it's understood to mean a human, especially a man. But actually it means Krishna. It's just that actually all words indicate Krishna. But particularly these terms, they're names for Krishna. Just like I came across recently one Gujarati lady, her name was Nari, which means woman. But that's what we think. It actually means it's a name for Radha. So we shouldn't think that because God has a human form, then this is some kind of, what do they call it? Anthropomorphism, which means to imagine God to be like what we are like, to be like a human being. It's rather, he imagines us, and therefore we have these kind of forms. So the original form of the Lord is two-handed, human-like form. Or more accurately speaking, the form of human beings is two-handed, human-like form. Because the real human form is that of Bhagavan, Krishna. So two-handed forms of the Lord are Krishna, Balaram, then Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughna, that's same, isn't it? Vamana. Then among the original Vishnu forms, that's it. There are many Shakta-Vaisha avatars also. I can't think of any just now. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. And Advaita Prabhu, who's four-handed in his Mahavishnu form, but two-handed as Advaita Acharya. So for persons who are in the infancy of their spiritual life, it will be easier for them to accept that that God's form is human, rather than that of a pig, tortoise, fish, half man, half lion, etc. Nityananda Prabhu is human, supreme, Param Purush, supreme human. But still, if we see his behavior, we may think that he's not superhuman, but he's subhuman, because his behavior is often unusual according to the norms of human society. Of course, we would expect Bhagavan his behavior to be unusual. If he was just exactly like an ordinary person, then what would be the meaning of him being Bhagavan? So many foolish people, they're going to the office and coming home every day and thinking they're Bhagavan. What is the symptom of their being Bhagavan? Zero, zilch, ziffer, shunya. How do you say it in Tamil?
Pujyam.
Pujyam. Oh, they do puja to the shunya. The shunyavadis. But there's another way of, so Bhagavan is unusual. For instance, he shows his Vishvarupa, which only Bhagavan. He holds Govardhan Hill. I have no objection to all these people who claim themselves to be Bhagavan. I'd just like them to show some Leela of Bhagavan by holding a hill. And if they can't do it, they're feeling a little weak because it's Kali Yuga, maybe. We can get one big crane and drop a big rock on them. So it should be no problem for them to catch it and hold it because they're Bhagavan. Of course, if they're not Bhagavan, then we'll very quickly have one less bogus Bhagavan in the world. And the world will be better for that. So, Bhagavan acts in unusual ways. Atimartyena Bhagavan. And he is worshipped for that. And there are people who are not Bhagavan who act in unusual ways, in a manner that is considered uncivilized. And they are not worshipped, they are rejected or considered most heinous for that. For instance, in civilized human society, which is now almost extinct in the world today, drinking alcohol is considered uncivilized. For a human above the age of early childhood to go around naked is considered uncivilized. For a human above the age of about 7 or 8 maximum, to go around naked is considered uncivilized. Nityananda Prabhu, well, he doesn't drink exactly, but he associates with, he goes around, he will go in the place of the drunkards. If previously in India, the caste rules were so strict that if a person from a caste Hindu, as we now call them, was to be seen even once entering a place where the booze shop, the what do they call, spirit shop or whatever, then he would be out. He would be thrown out of his caste. If he went to the area where the Chandals lived, he would be a caste person would be thrown out of his caste. In the areas where the Chandalas live, all sinful activities take place. But Nityananda Prabhu goes to all these places to deliver the fallen persons to Krishna consciousness. He is glorified for that. If one associates with fallen people, he's considered fallen. In Vedic society, the Chandalas, they live outside the area where the civilized people live. All the castes, they have their separate quarters, and the Chandalas, they live outside the city, outside the town. They are considered incorrigibly fallen. Incorrigibly means no hope of changing them. Nityananda Prabhu goes to such people to bring the mercy of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, to demonstrate the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Mamaivangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Every jiva is part and parcel of Krishna. There is no jiva who is so fallen that they cannot be delivered to Krishna consciousness. But normally it's not considered possible that anyone from such a status can take to purified life. Such persons have to take birth again and again and again, and very gradually they can even begin their purification process. But Nityananda Prabhu, he goes among the most fallen to deliver them. Some aspects of Nityananda Prabhu's behavior is even more remarkable or difficult to understand. That is explainable, although it is explainable why Nityananda Prabhu goes among the most fallen people. Although people who are adherents to strict caste rules, they might not accept this. People who are more open-minded, they will glorify Nityananda Prabhu for his mercy. But among the other activities that are considered unusual from the social perspective of Nityananda Prabhu is sometimes entering the house of Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Grihastha Lila. Sometimes Nityananda Prabhu would enter stark naked when well above the age of childhood. Fully grown man. So, how are you going to explain that? That's pretty wild behavior. Nityananda Prabhu is known as Avadhut, which means a Paramahamsa who is not only not bound by the rules of the conventions of society, but regularly flouts them or doesn't follow them. Sometimes in Vaishnava society the term avadhut is used to describe an eccentric devotee. This is an incorrect usage. It should not be used. Just like we should not call a jiva Bhagavan, we should not call anyone who is not on the level of a Paramahamsa, we should not refer to them as an avadhut. Just as it is offensive to Bhagavan to call one who is not Bhagavan, it is offensive to Nityananda Prabhu and all actual avadhuts to call those who are not avadhuts an avadhut. Of course, it's understood when an eccentric devotee is referred to as avadhut that it's in joke, but even in joke, it's not proper. Similarly, when there's some unusual happening, it takes place among devotees, we may refer to it as a lila, but that's also incorrect. Maybe very occasionally in joke, just to if it's used in joke occasionally, that shows the contrast between our foolishness and the divinity of the pastimes of the Lord. But if we make a habit of using these terms in the wrong way, then we actually come to misunderstand the meaning of the term. That's one reason why the English language is always changing. Just like, for instance, you might refer to some situation which very quickly changes. You might, or very quickly. Well, just like, for instance, someone's business, they have a little tea shop, and almost overnight it seems to turn into a chain of restaurants. So you might call that a quantum leap. Now you're going to have difficulty. Okay, I'll just say it in English, but it's not. So then the actual understanding of the term quantum leap becomes confused with that. It has a specific application, but when it's applied generally to any quick, sudden change of events, then it's the actual meaning, or the precise meaning, becomes confused with the metaphorical meaning. Okay, I don't translate that. But Sanskrit is they're fixed meaning. That shouldn't be. Sanskrit is meant for delineating the actual truth. Therefore, it's very important to understand all these terms very clearly, what they mean, and not misuse them. So actually, Bhagavan, in all his forms, is avadhut. He's not restricted by the behavior of human society. Sometimes some rascals, they blame Bhagavan for certain of his activities. They may blame Krishna for dancing with other people's wives or marrying so many wives himself. They may blame Ramachandra Bhagavan for the manner in which he killed Vali. Here in Tamil Nadu, they blame Ram for everything, for killing Ravana, which is good. It's manifestly a good thing, but they blame him. Some people blame him for that. But everything that Bhagavan does is beyond the rules of human society. Just axiomatically, there's nothing he can do wrong. But particularly, Nityananda Prabhu is known as Avadhut because he acts as a sadhu within human society, a practitioner and preacher of Krishna consciousness. But his behavior is often unusual by the norms or the conventions of human society. When Nityananda Prabhu entered the house of Caitanya Mahaprabhu completely naked, Caitanya Mahaprabhu was not disturbed. He shared some joking words with Nityananda Prabhu. Then he called for some cloth to make a kopin for Nityananda Prabhu. And having dressed Nityananda Prabhu in that, he again took it and gave him some more. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu shredded or made small pieces of that kopin which Nityananda Prabhu had worn. And he gave those pieces of kopin prasadam to all his male followers, male disciples who were present. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu told all his followers, you keep this, you tie it in your shika. By doing so, by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, you can be free from all lust. So, in this way, Caitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated that although Nityananda Prabhu had exposed his transcendental genitals, by meditation on those genitals or by the mercy of those genitals, one could become free from the desire to misuse one's own genitals, as everyone in this material world does, and which binds them in this material world. Just like Shukadev Goswami, he was wandering naked, but the young women, they were not disturbed by that because they could understand he's completely pure. Materialistic people worship the linga, the genital of Lord Shiva, so that they may gain various facilities to indulge the use of their own temporary linga that they have in this body. They think that Lord Shiva is the most successful materialist because look at his use of his linga. He appears to be expert in enjoying material life by sexual contact. But those who are pure devotees of Krishna, they worship Lord Shiva, knowing him to be pure devotee. Knowing Lord Shiva to be a pure devotee who is actually able to use his genitals in the service of Lord Krishna. And although to the perverted vision of materialists, Lord Shiva might appear to be the greatest materialist, pure devotees of Krishna, they worship Lord Shiva, understanding Lord Shiva's transcendental position. And pure devotees of Krishna pray to Lord Shiva that by his mercy they may become free from the desire for the perverted use of their genital. So by appearing naked in the house of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he demonstrated that as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not bound by the conventions of the world. He demonstrated the foolishness of identifying with the body. And he demonstrated the foolishness of desiring to enjoy any material body. And he instead drew attention to the actual body that should be worshipped, the Satchidananda Vigraha of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nityananda Prabhu's activities are often very difficult to understand. Actually, for materialistic people, everything is difficult to understand. They don't understand anything. Ahankare matta hoya nitai pada pasharya ashattere shatta karimani. They being insane due to the false egoism. They forget Lord Nityananda. And they take what they consider reality is just an illusion, a non-reality. This material world is anityam asukham lokam. Everything here is temporary and miserable. Actual eternality, actual happiness is only possible with Nityananda. Nityananda is, of course, a name for Krishna, but particularly this form whose appearance we are celebrating today, particularly he is known as Nityananda. Rajendra Nandan Jai Shachi Shuta Hailo Shai Balarama Hailo Nitai, who is known as the son or the darling child of Nanda Maharaj. Rajendra has become, in this Kali Yuga, the son of Shachi Mata, Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna has become Gauranga. And Balarama Hailo Nitai. Balaram has become Nityananda. Of course, Balaram is Nityananda. He doesn't exactly become, but conventionally it is said like that. Srila Prabhupada, he wrote in Srimad Bhagavatam purport, or maybe Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he has established the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan specifically to show that Gaur-Nitai are non-different from Krishna Balaram, to demonstrate this to the people of the world. And this is a very great ambition. Most of the people of the world are not they're not even interested in spiritual life. And if they are interested in spiritual life, then they tend to get misled. To understand the reality, the truth of Krishna consciousness, it requires a very fortunate person. After many lifetimes, they may understand. Onam janmanamante jnanavam mam prapadyate. After many lives, one who is actually attains knowledge surrenders to Krishna. Vasudeva sarvamiti, understanding that Vasudev is all in all. But this Vasudeva sarvam, understanding Vasudev as all in all, this is only a very beginning understanding of Vaishnavism. There's so much more to be understood about the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How he appears in various, even though he is one, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam, he appears in various forms. And what is his personality? Srila Prabhupada translated. No? Anyway, it doesn't matter actually, because I only have to speak this far. Well, he presented Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many words which denote Krishna. There are many words which denote Krishna, many names you can say. Yeah. And they all have various specific meanings. So if we say Param Purusha, or Parameshvara, Bhagavan, Hari, Krishna, all these terms indicate the Supreme Lord. The Srila Prabhupada, it's very difficult to translate this because I'm talking about how Prabhupada translated into English, and you have to understand English to understand the point. Anyway, Prabhupada he presented Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, emphasizing the personality. So even to accept that there is a Supreme Lord, that's a great step forward for the bewildered conditioned souls. But often they get stuck at that point. That they kind of half accept that he's a person. Just like in one of the so-called great religions of the world, the adherents are enjoined to bow down and pray 5 times a day. But if you say that the person that... you can't say that. If you say that the blank, blank, blank that they're playing to is a person, they'll probably chop your head off. Or maybe shoot you. They vehemently deny that Allah is a person. Whoops, I didn't mean to say that. Anyway. Hope Allah comes and shoots me. Then who, what, and why are you praying? Who are you praying? Where are your prayers going to? He's in the name of Allah, the most merciful. What, who, why, when? Or person? Allah. So they got stuck in a misunderstanding. Because they think that a person is someone on the level of themselves. They cannot imagine a supreme person. Or in another of the so-called great religions of the world, they accept that God is a person, but then they mistake him for the person who came to tell them about that person. And they say that, well, God is this person who died on the cross. God was killed. So they have God is a person, but then they killed him. So there's some very strange ideas. Yeah, they know the manner. Is it? Laughable. Some kind of joke or something. Is it? Is that what it means? Even in the Vaishnavism, many Vaishnavas, they get stuck on the point of just stuck at the point of accepting that he is a person. There's so much establishing that he's a person in opposition to the impersonalism, the Mayavad of Shankaracharya, that they don't really go much further than that. Hari Sarvotam, they say. I'm just always busy establishing this point. But if he's a person, then all right, he's a person. It's not that you just meet someone and say, you're a person. You're a person. You're a person! And he may say, yeah, that's true, and I'm hungry. Can you feed me something? Oh, wait a minute, you're supreme, so what do you need me to feed you for? Of course, all Vaishnavas, they do worship the deity and feed him. But it seems to have never occurred to some of them that your feeding him with love is more pleasing to him than simply philosophically establishing that he's hungry. It's like a mother takes her child to the doctor and says that, well, he's always complaining of stomach pain. And the doctor says, well, you have to feed him. He's hungry. So, simply to ascertain that someone's a person and they have personal needs and desires, Well, that's a good start, but then if you don't fulfill those needs and desires, then it's where is the personalism? The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Person, and even though He's supreme, He acts as if dependent upon His devotees. Just like a man when he grows up, he may go away from his parents' home. That's normal nowadays. Previously it was unusual. So if he goes away from home, he may go on eating idlis, as he did at home. But whatever idlis he eats, they're never as good as his mother's idlis. He just eats it, but there's no real pleasure there. Put some more chili in the sambar, try and get some pleasure. But still, it's never as pleasing as the mother's idlis, because the mother's love is there. There's a lot of difference between sitting in the hotel just eating your idlis, and in your school days the mother's serving out the idlis, hurry up, you have to go to school. So for the young man or even older man, he can never taste any idli as good as his mother's idlis. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's the actual provider of every idli that's ever been cooked and ever will be cooked. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the actual provider of every idli that has ever been cooked and ever will be cooked. But he becomes the child of his devotees so that he can enjoy the pleasure of being fed by his mother. Caitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees who are living in Bengal, mostly they were in Bengal, they would come annually to see Caitanya Mahaprabhu by walking. There was no other way to go. I guess you could have taken a ship, a boat along the coast, but they came by walking. By walking, you would visit so many holy places on the way. And you would bathe in various holy rivers. So Nityananda Prabhu would come in the group, which was led by Shivananda Sain. Shivananda Sain would organize everything for the whole group. Advanced planning was required. But after doing it a few years, they knew that, okay, we'll take our prasad on the third day in the evening, we'll stop in this village and we'll take prasad with these people, and like this, everything would be organized. So one of the jobs of Shivananda Sain was to organize the crossing of the rivers, which meant not only organizing boats, but there was also, like we have on the roads now, the toll booth. You had to pay to cross. You had to pay the government to cross the rivers. So you can imagine when paying the toll for crossing the river, when there was a big group, there could be a lot of confusion. And Shivananda might say, they might ask, how many in your group? And he might say, 273. So then the toll man would try to count them, thinking that Shivananda was maybe trying to cheat him. He said, I counted 281. You're cheating me. I'm just speculating. I'm just giving some. You may say, no, you counted someone twice. He was standing there and then he moved over here. There's no such description in Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas, but I'm just giving some idea of what might happen. And government officials all over the world, they have some, I guess in the modern age they'd put it down to genes. They have some genes of unreasonableness and desire to extort. Okay, never mind. They tend to be unreasonable. Very difficult to deal with. Looks like you're having some Ramba Kashtam also. You're getting tired? You need a change of translator?
I got the word for that.
So like that, one evening, they just in the evening they came to a river crossing. And the whole party was very tired and they just wanted to go over the river and bathe and take prasad and rest. They've been walking all day in the heat. They've been walking all day in the heat. And they came across a particularly difficult toll collector. So Shivananda made a preliminary deal with the toll collector. He said, look, this is going to take some time to work it out. So these people, they're all very tired, been walking all day. Let them go and we'll work it. I'll stay behind and we'll work it out between us afterwards. So the party crossed the river and Shivananda stayed behind. But when they crossed the river, they weren't in much of a better situation because they didn't. Without Shivananda, there was no one to allocate them their residences, and there was no prasadam either. I mean, he had to arrange everything. They were totally dependent on him. So Nityananda Prabhu, one facet of his transcendental personality is that he could get pretty upset sometimes. And he cursed Shivananda. He said, Shivananda, what's he doing, the rascal? May all his children die and go to hell. Be careful, make sure you get the prasad on time. I mean, a Brahmin's curse is considered like, that's it, you're finished. And Nityananda wasn't just any Brahmana, he's the Supreme Lord, so what he says must come true. So Shivananda Saint's wife, when she heard this, she was very upset. In the meantime, Nityananda Prabhu is getting more and more upset. So eventually Shivananda came late, and Nityananda gave him a good kick in the chest to express his displeasure at being delayed for his food. Shivananda said, I'm very fortunate today. His wife was crying, Nityananda cursed, all our children are going to die. Shivananda said, let them die. I put Nityananda so much trouble by delaying him. So without any more delay, Shivananda arranged for the lodging and prasad for the party. So Nityananda Prabhu first. And of course we say prasad, but for Nityananda Prabhu, everything is prasad. But then Shivananda, he thanked Nityananda Prabhu. Today you have accepted me as your servant. Today by kicking me and expressing your displeasure, in other words, it was implied that Nityananda had taken the position of being totally dependent on Shivananda. Although Nityananda Prabhu is capable of manifesting a whole universe full of food, he felt himself dependent on Shivananda's mercy. This is the meaning of the personality of Godhead. Not a personality so high and far away that you can only grovel at his feet. Grovel means to... I don't know how you say that in Tamil, except for you. You think how to say it in Hindi? I'm thinking also. Oh, there's a word in Bengali, but it's like a sycophant, something like that. Anyway, Bengali won't help you. Rather, he will express his dependence upon his devotee. Now this is Caitanya Mahaprabhu's gift. He takes us into the inner sanctum, or the inside, knowing God as a person, as a friend, as a lover. But Caitanya Mahaprabhu, acting as Jagat Guru, he was very careful in his behavior. He was very careful to follow all the rules and regulations of sannyas. But Nityananda, he didn't care for any rules. Interestingly, we find that all the avadhuts, of course there are not many of them, but devotees who act as if they don't follow any specific rules, there's still one rule which they do not break. Yeah, we see Vangshidas Babaji as practically like from external vision, he was insane. Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj also, just living in a toilet and eating out of a skull, but they never, none of these, even though exhibiting the behavior of total detachment from this world, from the conventions of this world, they never had illicit connection with women, or any connection with women for that matter, practically. Nityananda Prabhu, when he was residing in Navadvip, he and Caitanya Mahaprabhu, they took shelter of Srivas Kako. And particularly because Caitanya Mahaprabhu here already lost his father, Jagannath Mishra. And Srivas lost his son. So on the day that Srivas lost his son, that's another great lila, Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu declared themselves as the sons of Srivas. So he said, you lost one and you got two. So Nityananda Prabhu fully entered into the spirit of this. And in identifying himself as the son of Malini, Srivas' wife, he wanted to suck her breast. She was already an old woman, she was already past that age. But Nityananda, he made milk come in her breast so that he could suck it. Conventionally, Nityananda was accepted as a sannyasi, although there's no record of him formally taking sannyas. But later, either toward the end of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's manifest appearance or afterward, it's not clear to me, although I haven't researched it fully, he married the two daughters of Suryadas Sarkar. Two daughters, Janava and Vasundhara. But there was no illicit or even any trace of any illicit sexual connection. That is only for Krishna. That, of course, is also not illicit, but in worldly eyes it appears so. So anyway, Nityananda, this is a little glimpse at the glories of Lord Nityananda. His glories are unfathomably deep. Especially on this day, we shall try to meditate on them. Once I was discussing with two devotees, both very learned in Gauriya Siddhanta. It was shortly before Gaur Purnima. We were in Mayapur, and we were discussing about Navadvip Dham Parikrama, and we all had the same lamentation that the way it's conducted. One of these devotees was initiated by Jayapataka Maharaj, but more associated with Sri Chaitanya Math, and the other was associated with some Gauriya Math. There are so many. So many of these Gauriya Maths, and nowadays ISKCON also, they organize these Navadvip Dham Parikramas. But we were discussing how it's have a kirtan which is far too loud, so you can't hear anything. You can't hear the holy names. Then you go to a place and someone tells a story and they all say Hari Bol and they go on to the next place. We were discussing how maybe we should just all three go on a parikrama by ourselves and take time at each place and discuss the depth and the significance of the various leelas that have taken place there. So that 9-day parikrama might turn into a 9-year parikrama.
So,
because if we consider just anything that happens in, or even any grain of dust in Navadvip Dham to discuss its glories, Anantadev in millions of lifetimes couldn't come to the end of that. So who can understand the glories of Nityananda? Who is Anantadev? Who can understand his unlimited glories? Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that Nityananda Prabhu conducted the first Navadvip Dham Parikrama by taking Jiva Goswami. Recently, a scholar of Vaishnavism or a devotee expressed doubt to me that this had actually happened. Well, he actually didn't say about, but he said he didn't specify this, but he says that the whole book of... No, he did specify this also, yeah. He doubts many of the events recorded in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. Anyway, that's another subject which requires research. There's so many. We can have so many doubts about every single statement in every single shastra. But to attain the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, we have to make what is called in English, a leap of faith. A faith jump.
uh-huh.
To get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, we have to make a leap of faith. Is that what I said? We have to jump from the present position we're in, which is in Maya, into the realm of Bhakti. Now, if we try to do that by building a bridge of understanding every single point that's stated about Bhakti, we'll never come to any end. Because Bhakti Tattva is unlimited, and therefore the unfaithful people, they can bring unlimited objections. I gave that example. Who would have imagined that Ram could be blamed for killing Ravan? I mean, it's like the demons. They have, by the grace of Maya, they're blessed with unlimited perverted intelligence to blaspheme the Supreme Lord. So there may be unlimited objections or doubts about Bhakti, but we can't wait to try and understand every single point before we take up Bhakti. Nityananda Prabhu, he simply asks us to chant the holy names. Which holy names? No. That's what Caitanya Mahaprabhu told him to do. You go and tell everyone to chant the name of Krishna. But Nityananda thought, I don't know Krishna, I know Gauranga. These people are so fallen, how are they going to chant the name of Krishna? Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gauranga Namare, Jai Jun Gauranga Bhaje She Mora Pranore. Nityananda says, he would preach, go out, worship. Caitanya Mahaprabhu told him to preach, Prati Ghare Ghare Gya Karo Ebika, Bhaja Krishna, Bolo Krishna, Karo Krishna Shikha. Caitanya Mahaprabhu told Nityananda and Haridas to go to every door and tell people to worship Krishna, chant the name of Krishna, and study Bhagavad Gita as it is. And all of Prabhupada's books. Well, they didn't have Prabhupada's books in those days. We're more fortunate now. But to learn about Krishna. But Nityananda, he told everyone, worship Gauranga. Say the Gauranga. And just to make it more clear, take the name of Gauranga. Nityananda Prabhu says, whichever person worships Gauranga, he is my life. Who can understand Nityananda Prabhu? Those who chant the name of Gauranga. So I'll stop here trying to understand, and we can chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Devotees asked Prabhupada that, well, the name of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda is even more merciful, then why don't we just chant those names instead of chanting Hare Krishna? And Prabhupada said that because Caitanya Mahaprabhu told us to chant Hare Krishna. But actually chanting Hare Krishna, it's also chanting the names of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. Anyway.